Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second block of the second day of the CV Summit 2023. And we are going to start this second block with an incredibly interesting fireside chat. We will start our second block with a fireside chat with Fabian Vogelsteller, the creator of ERC20 himself, about his vision for the rapidly growing creative community. Fabian Vogelsteller is the author of the world's first smart contract standard, ERC20, and a former Ethereum developer who has significantly influenced the blockchain space. Recently, he co-launched LUKSO, the blockchain for new creative economies, enabling real blockchain adoption. He will be interviewed by Senior Vice President of Sygnum, the world's first digital asset bank based here in Switzerland and Singapore, Aliya das Gupta. And the man we've been waiting for, Fabian Vogelsteller.
Perfect. Thank you very much for joining us today, Fabian. And to all of you guys who are here to hear from Fabian, the father of ERC20 standards. That's what we call him today. But more importantly, if any of you guys made some money on the 2017 ICO avalanche, you can say thank you to him. But the story actually starts a little bit sooner. It was in 2015 that Fabian was working together with Vitalik, Gavin Wood, back when Ethereum was less than 50 employees, and started building the first interfaces to interact with smart contracts. Maybe some of you have heard of Mist, which is the world's first completely decentralized web browser, which Fabian built, and then also worked on developing the largest Web3 library that all the developers use today, Web3.js. And in November 2015, Fabian, with Vitalik, put forward the ERC20 standard, which led to the big ICO bubble, a lot of the crypto that we all engage with and love today. But something wasn't quite right. In 2017, he realized that there was something more to be built, that this standard wasn't quite perfect, it wasn't addressing all the needs that we had, and so put forward ERC 725. And that is what he's been working on for the last 5 years, and we know now today as LUKSO. So, I have a lot of questions for Fabian, but before we dive into it, right, my first question is, this is the guy that designed the standards that we use. So why are they broken? What doesn't work about them anymore? And why are we envisioning a new world?
I think everybody realizes probably, when we hear all the talks that people talk about, and when we are thinking about having Ethereum around since 6 years, and we have all of this blockchain space with $2 trillion market cap at peak, and then we still have barely users. I think obviously there's something very fundamental missing, and that's a proper, easy way to interact with blockchain. And this is kind of like the missing piece that even in this panel before that we had, when people talk about entertainment and gaming industry and how do people onboard in this and how do they use this. The problem is that we're still all relying on so-called wallets, right? We all rely on a single public key with a single password that we can't change, and that's the reason why things haven't been moving forward. And in LUKSO, when we started the idea of creating a blockchain specifically more for the ordinary, less technical user, the creator economy, the decentralized social media, the users of the internet, one thing that became very clear is that we need a better way of how we interact with blockchain. And it happened to be so that literally in 2017, I created a standard called ERC 725. You can see it's literally 4 standards after 721, which is the NFT standard. That really has been the basis and the foundation for all the things that we're building at LUKSO. And why is ERC20 broken? And also many other standards. In fact, most of the standards that we have in the ERC space, in the Ethereum space, is somewhat related to ERC20. because we just made it up back in the day, not like thinking 5 years through and then doing something, but basically there was a need for tokens. Vitalik made the first proposal. We discussed this internally, and I brought this to a more public place, which is this ERP repository. I created a proper format that later became kind of the default format for standard proposals. I called it Ethereum request for comment because the idea was we get comments and then form standards. So it was done very quickly. It was done more like there was a need, and obviously the space was very young, so you couldn't really think out all the possibilities and all the problems that could arise and how to optimize things. So it was the first version, right? It's the MVP of how you do things. So
Sure.
Obviously that needs to be improved, right?
Fair enough. And so when we think about these standards today, what is different in the vision of what you're building at LUKSO?
I mean, first and foremost, LUKSO is a new L1. It's a new blockchain that started in May. It's a blockchain that works fundamentally the same way like Ethereum 2 does. So it's a full-on proof-of-stake network, has the same consensus algorithm, the same EVM, the same everything. But the primitives, the foundational building blocks, are new. And those are the standard smart contracts and the proposals. We call them LSP, LUKSO Standard Proposals. And they are the primitives that people are building on. And yes, they are the improved token standards. So we have redone ERC20, we redone ERC721, improving on those a lot in order to make them more flexible, give them more ability to host metadata that's smart contract readable and a better interaction flow. But the most fundamental piece of all of them is actually ERC725 account, which is this standard. It's also called LSP 0, so it's the 0 standard of the LUKSO standard proposals. And that's your smart contract account. And that smart contract account is literally the solution to all the problems the space has today. And they will solve all these issues that we just heard here in some of these talks being discussed, because it's a standardized solution to a problem that so far has only touched to be solved in different kind of parties. For example, account abstraction is a portion of that problem, but it's not the whole thing. So we spent the last 5 years, I spent actually the last 5 years, and we built it out for the last 3 years to really show when you put this together in a new way and you create this new fundamental account system that is long-lasting, that will work for literally anything you want to do on a blockchain, how does it work and why does it solve the problems? And actually, people can try this out today if they want to have an experience. They can just go to LUKSO.network, they click on Create Profile, and they can create a testnet profile and kind of experience the flow and the easy in. But when you're a developer and you look under the hood and you see how it works and what it does, you will realize very quickly that this is an extremely powerful account standard that allows you to build a lot of new things and allows you to even have a proper UX and the onboarding, including for the games, Web3 games, what we had heard before as well.
Sure, sure. But when we're thinking about onboarding the next billion users into Web3, what does it really change about the user journey? Like, as a layperson who may not be a developer, how does the journey on LUKSO look different to what it might be on Ethereum or Near or anything
so
like that?
I would first start with the first million users on blockchain, because we do not have them. We have maybe the first 100,000 users on blockchain. We have a lot of traders, right? And traders on exchanges, not users. So actual DApp users using decentralized protocols, they're very, very few. So what it changes is, I mean, first off, you don't need to remember seed phrase, because the device that you use to control your profile first is a replaceable device. So you can have multiple devices controlling this. They all have their own private key, but your account is the singular thing that they both control. You can have different levels of permission, which is what you need if you have multiple devices or different applications that control your profile. You want to have some sense of control of what they can do. And you have a gasless user experience. That means a third party can pay for your transaction fees, giving you a very seamless onboarding, give you a very seamless in to any app. It can start out with just clicking a few buttons, not even entering an email or anything. And then later, so it can start with weak security if you want, but it can later transition to better security, while your account address and your account name and your profile is not changing. And that's a this is the main hurdle that we had so far, right? It's, where do I get the token for the gas, right? And do I need to remember this crazy thing here called seed phrase, and with this massive warning that if you don't remember this right now and write it down, you will not have your stuff in the future. So these are the two main factors that are removed, but it also has information that you can attach to it. So it can look like a profile. It can look like anything you want it to look like.
Makes me think of MySpace, but the 2023 version.
And in fact, there is a website called universal.page where you can log in with your universal profile, and then you can actually create your own custom MySpace-like website for your profile.
So when we're talking about use cases in blockchain, right? You talked a lot about token trading. That's what a lot of us spend our time doing when really engaging with crypto. But the idea is that this universal profile actually opens up a whole new world of use cases. What do you envision these to be?
I mean, so what I see going forward is we will see now the ability for people to really interact with blockchain, where it's not that they need to understand all this complexity on the technology level, which then brings more users in. On top of this, the next generation of apps and applications on blockchain will be in the direction of communities, DAOs, and decentralized social media. Things where networks and people interact with each other. So when you're dealing with these things, so think of you have in a profile, decentralized profile, and you can have a reputation, or you can hold things that just earn like fan tokens, or you can just have things from an artist or other people that you interact with within an ecosystem. This is not monetary first. This is something that's actually less of a risk in terms of value. So because it's less of risk, you feel also easier and safer to go in and play around with this.
Yeah.
Right? It's not instantly your 5,000 euro investment that you need to now handle, but it's kind of like something that's just fun. And because it's fun and playful, people warm up to this new kind of account. And once they realize all the things they can do, and once these communities form in a decentralized way, then you will realize that a decentralized profile, especially in the times we live today, is actually essential. And one other important thing is the user experience in the Web 2 is already broken, right? People forget that. Do we have to sign up on every website again with the same email, always inventing a new password, which then people don't, right? And constantly being in front of this barrier of entry for any app they're trying to use. If you have a universal profile that's not owned by a single company, but it's owned by you, which sits on the blockchain, you can use this as a login anywhere, right? Yep. As long as apps just make this as a login available, it's a very easy in, it's a one-click in. And that's just a login and a sign up at the same time. So you can now interact on the internet, not constantly needing to change your profile, not constantly need to upload your profile picture or your name or anything. You're just the same person everywhere if you want to.
Sure. And also, talking a little bit about the idea of universal profiles, about decentralized social media, because this is something that Elon Musk is dealing with in a very live way for all of us, is with bots and dealing with identities and how to kind of create a new paradigm for social media where it's just a safer and better experience for us. How do you see this space evolving?
So the thing is, we created a primitive. Mm-hmm. We created the foundational piece of how your blockchain account works, that works for everything we had in the past in blockchain, DeFi, tokens, whatever you want. But it also works now for all of these new use cases that are far beyond money. And how does it create a safer environment? It's now up to people to come up with protocols. You could build a follower system. You could build a reputation system. You could build a proof of human system. All of this already plugs into a universal profile very seamlessly. You don't need to do much, and you can just add that's just information. So what this also allows us to create, kind of in a way, a social network, where instead one company trying to build all the pieces and builds the feed system and the reputation system and the follower system, build this one monolithic website, let's call it Facebook, right? We can now build all primitives. Different application and protocol developers can build the primitives that plug into the profile. So now you can have a decentralized social network that exists on 50 pages. They all just show different things in different ways. And because it's a smart contract account, and if you want to be a spammer that creates hundreds of them, there will be some costs associated to this. So it's very hard to create a massive amounts of accounts. And also it's on the blockchain, so that means your activity that you do on your public or anonymous profiles are somewhat visible, and therefore, there's a history. You can see very clearly what's a fake account, what's a real account. And you can then have filter systems that filter these fake ones very easily out. So you can create a lot of easier ways of how to decipher the web, let's say, the Web 3.
But also, like now we're talking about decentralized social media, I think everyone's familiar with what Lens is doing, and maybe some of the apps that are building on Lens or Farcaster. Do these now then have to move onto LUKSO, or are these just separate things, or how does this fit into the broader ecosystem?
Everybody will move to LUKSO and universal profile. That's a certain why, because we solve the problem that everybody has. Lens, for example, it's a nice idea to create an NFT profile and then have a few functions that you can use. But what we built is a very generic primitive that works for everything, and then people can build all of these cool, social media functionalities on top as they wish, and there can be competing protocols. While Lens is a custom-built system with a specific use case that now depends on this one organization with the 5 features, and if you want to change something, they have to do an update. You might have to upgrade your stuff, and on top of it, it's also governed by a single wallet again. So having the same problems that we had before. So if you compare Lens and universal profiles, I think they're not really, it's almost like apples and oranges, but it's also, like you can't compare a Tesla to a gasoline car. They look the same, they have 4 wheels, but under the hood it's like a whole different dimension, right? So this is the same here.
I love it, I love it. Building the Tesla of the crypto ecosystem.
Build the Apple of blockchain, yeah.
That is as much time as we have. Thank you, Fabian, so much for sharing your insights. And any final words for developers or people looking to build on LUKSO?
Oh, absolutely. If you want to create a profile, LUKSO.network is LUKSO.network. Create a profile, play around. If you're a developer, go to docs.luxo.tech and you learn about how you can really build very interesting applications on the future EVM.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.